Could everyone please take their seats? We're going to get started. Good afternoon. My name is Brian Cofrancesco, and I serve as Vice President of the Meriden Hall of Fame Association. On behalf of the board and our members of the Hall of Fame, it is my honor to welcome you here today to the 40th Annual Induction Ceremony. As we begin our ceremony, I would like to call on Sister Georgianne Vambacco from St. Joseph's Church to deliver today's invocation.
Thank you. Creator God, as we gather this afternoon to celebrate the gifts of time and talent of Mrs. Maureen Bilger, Dr. Charles T. Flynn, Jr., former Mayor William Shea, and Governor Abiram Chamberlain. We thank you for these 4 beautiful lives that we honor and will induct this afternoon into the Meriden Hall of Fame. We thank you that each one of them was willing to share their gifts with our community of Meriden. Each one brought their God-given gift to serve the people of Meriden and our state through community service, medicine, and government. We ask you to continue to bless them, their families, and all that they serve through our loving God. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Sister Georgianne. Again, I'd like to welcome you all to this 40th Annual Induction Ceremony. Thank you to the honorees and their families and friends for joining us, and to Denise Jones, Karen Wegner, and Tom Saksensky of Inner Groove for serenading us this afternoon. The Meriden Hall of Fame was established in 1975 to honor prominent people, living or deceased, who live or have lived in Meriden, who have distinguished themselves over time in their professional and public lives, and who have brought honor to the city of Meriden. Including today's inductees, the Hall of Fame has recognized 142 outstanding citizens from Meriden's past and present since its inception. Each inductee is memorialized with a permanent plaque on display in City Hall. We are joined today by several past inductees of the Hall of Fame in the audience. If you are a past inductee, please stand and be recognized. The success of the Meriden Hall of Fame would not be possible without the continued support of our members, many of whom are here today, as well as our officers and board of directors who contribute to the association year-round. I would like to introduce this year's board and ask that you please stand and remain standing when your name is called. Our officers: President David Sweedock, Vice President Brian Cofrancesco, Secretary Gail Edgington, Membership Secretary Joe Zajac, Treasurer Vincent Muley, and our board members: Alan Church, Jeffrey Crossan, David Edgington, Carol Hart, John Hogarth, Mike Quinn, and Ed Murphy. And our honorary board members. And we also have 3 honorary board members: Robert Conroy, George Esposito, and Irene Massey. Please join me in a round of applause. I now invite the Honorable Kevin Scarpati, Mayor of the City of Meriden, to the podium to deliver greetings from the city.
Thank you. It is an honor to be here. So let me just take a quick moment, if you will, and just allow me to introduce some of the elected officials who have also joined us from the Meriden City Council. We have Deputy Majority Leader Kathy Batista. We have City Councilor Sonia Jelks. Deputy Mayor Michael Cardona. City Councilor Miguel Castro. a former city councilor and a face that everyone knows here in the city of Meriden, Mr. Matt Dominello. We have a few state representatives here as well. We have State Representative Hilda Santiago in the back, as well as over here to my right, State Representative Buddy Altobello. I would be remiss if I did not also acknowledge a gentleman who will be speaking in just a few moments, but a great partner to the city of Meriden, here on every occasion when called upon, and that's our great Senator, Mr. Richard Blumenthal. President Sweedock, thank you very much. Vice President Cofrancesco, thank you very much. And the entire board of directors, all your volunteers, many hours of which you put in to help acknowledge these distinguished guests are greatly appreciated. So we thank you very much on behalf of the mayor's office and the city council and all of our residents. We thanks for the time that you put in each and every year. To the honorees, the families and friends that have joined us here today, I congratulate you and I thank you very much for all of the work that you have put in over the years to make Meriden all that it is today. I am proud and humbled to play just a small role in Meriden's history and am proud to be here today amongst all of you to carry on this great tradition. The 40th induction ceremony. Over 100, almost 150 honorees to date, and you are among the finest of Meriden's history. One of my favorite things to do at City Hall as the mayor is to give tours of City Hall to a lot of youth groups and students that come in, and one of my favorite parts truly is the plaques that hang among the wall for the Meriden Hall of Fame, and they get to point out and look at and see the faces of all those that have contributed to Meriden's great history. And the four we are honoring here today are very much a part of that. So I won't take any more of your time. I just want to thank you very much. We have proclamations to give each of you from the mayor's office that will be awarded upon the reciprocation of all your gifts today. So thank you very, very much for all of your work and continued success in the city of Meriden. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Scarpati, and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us this afternoon. We are also honored to have with us today United States Senator Richard Blumenthal. I would now like to invite Senator Blumenthal to the podium to deliver remarks.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here. Thank you, Mayor Scarpati, for your leadership, your very important leadership to the town, to the city of Meriden. I love Meriden, and I love events like this one, where we honor people who have done good at a time when there's so much vitriol and venom in our public life. What better way to spend an afternoon in the greatest country in the world than to be honoring people who make it the best place to live, the strongest and best country in the world. And we can be so grateful to live here and to have them and to model ourselves after them. I have been involved in elective office for a while, and I am very thankful that two of the honorees actually also were elected to office. And I don't know whether anybody living today, next year, or the year after would be inducted into the Hall of Fame. We certainly have to earn our way into it. But it reminds us that we need to have these role models in our lives. And not just in public life, not just in elective or appointed office. But I was so struck in reading about Maureen Bilger. If you will note the last line in the description of her and her service at the Meriden Girls Club. She was a confidant, supporter, role model, counselor, and for some girls, a substitute mother. As a parent of 4 children, I know how hard it is to be a real parent, not to mention a substitute mom But that kind of guidance and leadership, the courage and strength to contribute in that way, is really inspiring, as are all of the others, Dr. Flynn, William Shea, Governor Chamberlain. We can take hope and inspiration from this great day. I have certificates of special recognition from the Senate of the United States. You'll be happy to know they were approved by an overwhelming majority, bipartisan. I'm not going to present them now, but we will present them later. But thank you to Meriden for reminding us. Thank you for reminding us about what's important about America and what's important about being an American. Thank you so much, and God bless our great country. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, for making such a special effort to be with us today. And now for our induction ceremony. Each honoree will be introduced by a family member or friend, and then invited to the podium to accept their award and give brief remarks. Because two of our inductees are being honored posthumously, a designee will accept their award. Each honoree or designee will receive a copy of the plaque, which you can see over here, which will soon hang in Meriden City Hall, as well as a print of local artist Justin Piccirillo's cartoon depicting the four honorees for this year. Our first recipient this year is Maureen Bilger in the category of community service. Introducing Mrs. Bilger is Donna Muley.
Helps if you take the paperclip off. I have had the honor of knowing Maureen Bilger for more than half a century. One of our first meetings took place on the sandy shores of Beaver's Pond in the 1950s, one of Meriden's elite swimming holes at the time. She was the waterfront director and I was a counselor in training. As such, I was taking junior life-saving lessons from her. And I clearly remember the day that my class finally passed all its tests and we were getting our badges and our certificates, and Maureen presented them and told us to sew the patches on the seats of our suits and never to stand up. Talk about being a confidence builder. But seriously, Maureen is a confidence builder. Throughout her life, she has worked with many children of all ages and has influenced them positively. The different capacities in which she has served are truly outstanding, and so get ready to be impressed as I introduce you to Maureen Mulligan Bilger. The first person who Maureen inspired confidence in was herself. She was 10 years old when she learned that her mother was stricken with cancer. A devastating diagnosis today, and much more so in the 50s without today's medicine. It was Maureen's responsibility to take on a lot of the household chores, to care for her mom, dad, and her brother. So you can imagine that might not have been the best time to approach her father about taking horseback riding lessons. Not to be outdone, Maureen approached the owners of the stables and suggested that perhaps they would allow her to clean out stalls in exchange for riding lessons. They agreed, she cleaned, and she learned to ride. The lesson that she learned was that she had many abilities that were of value to others, and she could use those abilities to get what she needed and wanted. So who is Maureen Bilger? The importance of family is an inherent characteristic of who she really is. She grew up in a multi-family home with her parents, John Francis Mulligan and Dolorita Danahy Mulligan, and her younger brother, now retired Lieutenant Colonel John Mulligan of the Connecticut State Police. They lived in one apartment while her grandmother Margaret and her aunts Irene and Rose shared the other. Maureen went on to care for her aunts, uncles, and father until the times of their deaths. It was a lesson of generosity that she taught her 5 children by personal example. Maureen's generosity of spirit has led for her to be recognized for a multitude of community service efforts. She is a Meriden native and a product of its school system. At her graduation in 1956, she was awarded the prestigious Hicks Prize, which was an indication of what would become a lifelong ability to use words to her advantage. After graduation, it's the truth. After graduation, Mo attended what was then Central Connecticut State College for a year before marrying Warren Bilger in October of 1957. Together, they went on to raise a family of 5 children: Jeffrey, Suzanne, Joanne, Peter, and Diane, also known as Dee Dee, until Warren's death in 1988. As stated earlier, an important lesson that the children learned was the importance of being generous to others, and generosity was not limited to monetary donations. They learned to look inside themselves and to identify what they had that could be of use to others. And as an example, they saw their mother knit what looked like hundreds of pairs of mittens for her son Peter's 4th grade class. To this day, Maureen is known for knitting hats, scarves, and mittens for those without them. Raising 5 kids wasn't enough for Maureen. Her home became the center of activity for the neighborhood, and in the early 1970s, Suzanne and Joanne thought it would be a great idea if they and their friends started a neighborhood babysitting service. Aware that girls that age needed guidance, Mo helped them develop a preschool experience that consisted of a program for 20 children for 2.5 hours a day. At the cost of 50 cents per session, it was a bargain for the parents. And yeah, where are they today, huh? And I'm sure the teens and preteens that were involved learned more about themselves than they did about their business. If you read the tribute to Maureen in today's programs, you'll learn about the many organizations in which she served. They are numerous and varied, and give you a portrait of the woman we are honoring. However, there are a few other things that you should know about Maureen Bilger that are not included in that live capsule. For one thing, Maureen is a clown. I mean it, a real clown. She and I were both confirmation advisors for high school students of St. Rose Parish. And at one advisor's workshop, we got together and thought it would be great to have a joint meeting at my home for our classes. Imagine my surprise when I answered the door and found a clown, a real Ringling Brothers type of clown, complete with wig, makeup, and funny shoes, standing there. It was an interesting session, to say the least. Our kids were equally astounded and truly paid attention as Mo worked her magic, both literally and figuratively. Once again, she shared her generosity of spirit, along with her gift of language, and helped a dozen teenagers become closer to their faith. And me, I served punch and cookies. You may have noticed that Maureen's life and mine have managed to intertwine at various times. However, I'm not the only muley that has popped up here and there. When I met Mo to get her input and approval for these remarks, she took me to task for not mentioning how important Vinny and the others at Muley's Market were to her and her family. When she told me, and I quote, "Vinny was a big part of who my kids grew up to be," unquote, I thought she was implying that they're all hopelessly addicted to sweets because he used to smuggle them candy, usually chocolate in nature because that melts better all over their new suits, and that he used to sleep with them when the moms weren't watching. But no, she was talking of something more serious and important. Holidays are an important part of family life, and with those holidays come the traditions that show how we celebrate who we are and whom we love. One of the holidays that most of us observe that has many traditions is Thanksgiving. We have high school football games and extended family meals that include special foods and casseroles that are only served once a year. But the food most associated with that most American of holidays is turkey. What would Thanksgiving be like without a turkey? That was the dilemma Maureen faced when one of her children woke up too sick to go to the family feast. Casseroles you can do without, but not the turkey. Maureen called the store, which was open for morning hours, and asked if they could help her out in any way. A short time later, Vinny was in his car with a fresh and fortunately not frozen turkey, along with many of the trimmings, on his way to Rice Road. It should surprise no one that once again, when Mo was executive director of what is now Girls Inc., The Bilger-Muley connection resurfaced. The club made tremendous strides under her leadership. As a member of the board of directors, I saw firsthand the results of her leadership and hard work. Because of the depth of her outstanding presentations to the United Way, the Girls Club was finally awarded equal funding to that of the Meriden Boys Club. Subsequent presentations by her and then board president Kathy Kogut resulted in the Girls Club receiving even larger allocations than our neighbors up the street. One of my favorite Maureen memories is the National Girls Club Conference that was held in New York City. Sharing a room with Maureen is a unique experience. In reality, it was many experiences, most of which we both promised never to divulge. We represented the club to our best of our abilities and worked hard to present the views and needs of the clubs in the Northeast region. Once again, Maureen's voice proved to be one to be reckoned with. When she spoke, people listened, especially when she invited the majority of our new friends to our room, which quickly became party central. In all seriousness, however, I need to acknowledge some of the other high spots in Mo's career. Her service to the people of Meriden, her 5 years of service to Head Start, her work in a number of different political campaigns and elections, her service on many boards of directors, including the Bradley Home, the Meriden Wallingford Hospital as it was evolving into Midstate Medical Center, and finally, her continued participation in the BABES program. BABES stands for Beginning Awareness Basic Education Studies, which helps first and second graders in Meriden and Wallingford learn concepts and coping skills that help them deal with pet and/or parental loss and other tough issues. So, have you truly met Maureen Bilger? I'm not sure. I know I haven't talked about the woman who played semi-pro basketball, or who enjoyed a match of tennis or a round of golf, or the woman who collected antiques and organized bridge games. Then there's the Maureen who hosted every holiday feast. Maureen's daughter Joanne told me that Mo never missed an event for anyone, and that continues through today when Mo is known for baking for the residents of the Connecticut Baptist Home as they celebrate their birthdays and special events. Like a diamond, Maureen has many facets. Like a diamond, she is a priceless gem. It is my honor to present to you the 2016 Meriden Hall of Fame inductee in the area of community service, Maureen Bilger. The mini plaque that matches one which will be up at City Hall, and this is her sign, I believe.
It's my cartoon. I finally made it.
And here she is, Maureen Bilger.
Thank you. Wow, is that great or what?
Or what? You want me to hold it? Do you want
No, I got it. Whew, I don't know who that is. I'm sure there's people in this room that are going, what? That's not her. Well, thank you to the Meriden Hall of Fame committee and to Donna and Vinnie Muley. I am a proud member of this community, and this is really a great honor today. Thank you to my family and my friends who are here today. But my life has really been kind of typical of all the folks who were born and raised in Meriden. I've been very lucky to have such a strong, smart, and bold family. And together, they gave me the roots that made me strong. Teachers, schools, Roger Sherman, Jefferson, Meriden High School, where I learned the basics and where I dreamed of the future. Mulligans and Danahys surrounded me to make me really bold. role models like Catherine McNulty, Girl Scouts, Camp Glen Echo, Rabbi Troy, who, along with the Irish Mafia, that's Doyle, Mia, McNulty, and Mulligan, who babysat at the temple on high holy days. In downtown Meriden, where most of us worked. I worked at VLOS. And all this made for growing up in a community filled with opportunities. I was so lucky. My family, my children, are the best things I've ever done. Supported by an amazing husband who always came through and didn't run away. I never understood that. Surrounded by Muley's Market, who fed us, Meriden school system, who educated them, and I just had to kind of sit back and watch it all happen. Junior Women's Club, Kiwanis, St. Pius X, Girls Inc., and Babes, all part of the history of with friends and relatives supporting me every minute along the way. And I take this award with great pride and honor in all the names of all the people who have graced my life and made me the woman who will always be proud to be a member of the community of Meriden, Connecticut. Thank you very much.
If I might add just one personal anecdote. The night that the Hall of Fame inductees were announced, I fled over to Maureen's house to let her know. And by that time, it was about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And she opened the door in her nightgown like she usually does. And I didn't realize she hadn't been told yet that she was one of the honorees. So I show up with a flower and I said, "Congratulations." She's like, "For what?" And I said, "You're being inducted into the Hall of Fame." And her hands flew to her face, and she yelled at me, "Are you nuts?" But that's just an example of what a humble woman she is. So congratulations, Maureen.
Thank you.
Our second inductee today is Dr. Charles T. Flynn, Jr. in the category of Science and Medicine. Introducing Dr. Flynn is Anna Murphy, and accepting the award on his behalf is Martha Durkin.
Boy, that's a hard act to follow with Donna and Maureen. I'm up here basically with the qualifications of why he came in, but when they were talking, and Muley's Market, I mean, I'm one of 9, and 3 of my siblings are here. The other 5 couldn't be here today. One's in Switzerland, 3 are in Colorado, and 1 is in Illinois, or Ohio, I'm sorry. But just hearing of Muley's Market, and my mother never drove there. They always delivered, and her car had the least amount of miles on it that people couldn't believe with 9 kids, and she never drove anywhere, but it was because of Muley's. And then we would walk home from St. Rose and stop in there and get our candy or our ice creams and say, "Charge it to my folks," and they would. But anyway, my dad was not born here, but and he was known also as C.T. Flynn or Charlie or Tom, so you may have known him by a lot of different names. But he was actually born in New Haven in 1917 and died in Cleveland, Ohio in 1990, near where my brother was living. He graduated, I'm giving you the basics here, graduated from Providence College and Yale University's Medical School, and he served in the World War II as an Army battalion surgeon, receiving Bronze Battle Stars, Victory Medal, and a Combat Medic Badge. And he concluded his military service at Percy Jones Hospital in Battle Creek, Michigan. And my mom was a nurse in the war. That's how they met. And she actually borrowed a wedding dress from somebody. They got married at the end, and they moved to Chicago and lived there for a while. And then in 1951, he moved to Meriden with my mother, Martha, and where he lived and worked until his retirement in 1986. He was first appointed to the medical staff, and I think at the time it was just the Meriden Hospital, but it was Meriden, Wallingford, and now Mid-State, I guess. But he was the orthopedic surgeon, and he was the founding member of the Meriden Orthopedic Group with Dr. George Fox, and then it later became Dr. Franz and Dr. Willett, and yeah. And Dad, he served as member-at-large, secretary and chairman of the medical board, chief of staff, and associate director of surgery at the Meriden Wallingford Hospital. And he also volunteered for many years at the Newington Children's Hospital. And he was also a very active member of the Meriden Kiwanis Club. And I know my sister Marty is going to go into a little more about that personal part of that. But in his retirement, he served for several years as a director at the Meriden Wallingford Hospital. So he just loved Meriden, everything about it, and so we came to love it also. And spending time, when you say downtown, with Kresge's and Belofts and Boynton's and Clements, and I mean all these places that we spent, and as what? Azolinos. Well, on one side of us, we lived on Woodlawn Terrace, right near Washington Park. One side of us was Jimmy Azolino from Azolino's Music Store, and the other side was Clarence Carr from Boynton. So, we had a lot of good memories, and looking through the list of people that were inducted already, all his George Hamra and Dr. David Park and all these people that we're very good friends, and we knew growing up too. And as I'm looking around, Carol came up to me. I used to teach at Lincoln Middle School, my very first job, and she came up and said she taught with me. And I know Bob Conroy is here, and he helped me when I left to have my children, and so he was important to me. So it's fun to come back, and of course this was our library here, and see the way it is today. So, and George Ann Bambaco, I went to Mercy High School with. So I'll tell you, it's really great to come back and see everybody. And I have, friends and family. Three of my grandchildren are here, so it's pretty exciting. So on behalf of all of us, I'd like to say thank you, and this is quite an honor, and our dad will be so proud and honored to be here and get this award. And because just so many of his friends and colleagues are on that list. So I guess that's it. I mean, I'm not as long or anything. So here we go. So I think my sister Martha, after my mother, well, here's a cute story. When, come on up. Marty and Chris are the twins, and so Chris, come on up. They were going to come up anyway, and Donna, my sister Donna. But when Marty and Chris were born, we didn't have names. We all thought they were going to be Janet and Lynn. But when my father went to the hospital, and my mother's name was Martha Jean, and so it was like, here's Martha Christine. Martha Christine, and it's so he said this one's Martha, and this one is Christine. So that's the way it was. Right after my mother, yeah. All right, so Marty, come up, I guess, and she has something to say, and I guess I present this to you. All right, the plaque, very nice plaque, and I don't know how we're going to share it. We'll have to send it around like the...
Spends a month at everybody's house.
Oh, and that is very nice. Thank you.
All
right.
Okay, good. Thank you, ma'am.
Here.
There you go. Okay, good. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to share with you today, as we mentioned, my sisters are here. It's an honor to be here today with Ann and Donna and Chris, and to represent our remaining siblings, Barb, Deb, Tom, and Steve, as well as extended family members to receive this award posthumously on behalf of our father, Dr. Charles Thomas Flynn, Jr. The fact that his accomplishments have been recognized by the Meriden Hall of Fame organization is quite amazing. We remember our dad as a dedicated, hardworking, caring physician. He would get up early, often gone before we left for school, and return home late for dinner with family. On many occasions, he'd be called to the hospital in the middle of the night to address emergencies. Our dad loved his work, and we never heard him complain. Some of us had the pleasure to hold summer jobs in his office on Green Road, where he enjoyed spending time with his patients, getting to know them. We were and remain proud to be his children. Dad was an active contributor to his community. We remember him rehearsing for those annual Kiwanis shows. He would do a comedy routine or play his clarinet with his good friends, Jimmy Azzolina and Dr. Don Badner. And we certainly made sure to bury Dad with a copy of his Italian Three Bears script in case he needed to do any entertaining in heaven. He's that kind of guy. We were fortunate to have our dad as long as we did due to the love and tireless efforts of our mom, Martha. For those who may not have known our father, he had suffered a debilitating stroke mid-career and had to relearn to walk and talk with the help of another Meriden community member, Dr. Woods. Once Dad told me, feeling sorry for yourself was the worst disease in the world. So even during his recovery from stroke, it's not surprising that he kept a positive attitude. He wrote to my sister the following words: "During these past several months, I've had time to assess my blessings. I realize how dependent all of us are on factors beyond our control. How very fortunate I am to have recovered with minimum handicap, surrounded by good, loyal friends and family. To be given this opportunity to return to work and to be back again with my family just can't be pure chance or dumb luck. There must be a God in his heaven who reached out and decided my time had not come." Dad was a religious man and was one of the first lay persons to become a lector at St. Rose Church, which he did for many years, with his family filling the first 2 pews at Mass every Sunday, not unlike today. He always took us to Best Eaten Donuts on East Main Street after Mass. I'm not sure if this was a treat for the kids or more so to fulfill his Irish sweet tooth. One of our dad's most fervent requests was for his children to never lose their appreciation for God. In his later years, Dad developed dementia, and during that difficult time, we were able to return some of the kindness and care that he had given to us all our lives. To summarize the kind of man our dad was, we would say he was one of the very few genuinely decent men we have met in our lifetimes. He was humble, and he treated others with the highest respect, regardless of their status in life. He was truly a gentle man, a man of compassion for others. He loved God, he loved his wife and children, he felt blessed by his patients and daily work, and he enjoyed giving back to the city of Meriden, where he chose to build a home and raise his family. With profound appreciation, we again thank you for the honor of receiving this award on behalf of our father, Dr. Charles Thomas Flynn, Jr.
Congratulations to Dr. Flynn and the entire Flynn family who joined us today. Our third inductee this afternoon is attorney William T. Shea. Introducing attorney Shea is his daughter, Dr. Kathleen Shea Smith.
Thank you, Maureen. I am a proud member of the Girls Club, imprinted deeply by Maureen. I got to work under her as her waterfront director, and everything they said was true. My sisters were deeply impacted by being part of the Meriden Girls Club. So on behalf of my mother, Janice Shea, and my sisters, and Margot, and Chrissy, and Ellen Shea, and our family members, it's my honor to stand in front of you to join the Voices of Recognition in today's Hall of Fame ceremony. I have the privilege of introducing and highlighting the career of my father, William Thomas Shea, a Meriden resident of 80 years whose life's goals were fueled by the love for this city and a vision for what he knew could be. We talked about humility. I read a wonderful quote by C.S. Lewis, who said, "True humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less." William or Bill Shea, as you know him, embodies this statement. He has been much more interested in our lives and our accomplishments than his own. I know you two will be both amazed and inspired by the themes that characterize his life. But before I go any further, I must acknowledge that today is a bittersweet day for our family. My dear Uncle Joe, Joseph Francis Wiegand, initiated this nomination many months ago. Just 11 days ago, he passed away. We deeply appreciate, thank you, how he rallied behind this effort, and as a result, brought us together today to honor my father. William Shea is a product of the Meriden school system. He graduated from Meriden High School in 1948, and what you may not know is that he worked part-time in American National grocery store. I don't know if anyone remembers American National. I'm seeing some heads. First National. I knew I was going to get that wrong, Mom. Okay, First National. But before my time, I guess. And as a part-time worker, he really shined so much that they offered him a position to go into a management program. Well, his mother was describing this opportunity to her sister, Aunt Nan, and she would not hear of it. Oh, no. She said, oh no, he needs to pursue the path of higher education. She was very clear about that. And so mysteriously, 2 weeks later, an application appeared from the University of Pennsylvania, which happened to be the institution where her 2 sons graduated. So he was accepted to the University of Pennsylvania, which is quite an accomplishment and achievement. And he really took a leap of faith, if you think about it, to leave Meriden and go all the way to Philadelphia to pursue higher education. He enrolled at Penn's Wharton School of Finance and Commerce, where he was a successful student. He studied economics and did really well. Not too long after, let's say about, I think his 3rd year, the end of his 3rd year, he had a conversation, another critical conversation. And I think often about these critical conversations in our lives. And I know the people who are being honored today have had many critical conversations with people who actually, these are conversations that to me change the course of our lives. So there was an assistant dean for the law school at the University of Pennsylvania who actually spoke to my dad and said, I think you should consider enrolling for law school. And he did. And 3 years later, he graduated with his Juris Doctorate degree. He made the decision to return to Meriden. He had other opportunities, but he said, I want to return to Meriden, to be there, to be with my family, to be in my city. And he joined the practice of Francis O'Brien. He quickly established himself as a mover and a shaker. Yes, he became president of the Meriden Young Democrats and ran for his first political office to serve as a member of the Board of Tax Review, which launched his political career that included 4 terms as a state representative, beginning in 1958. As Connecticut's youngest legislator, his talent and ambition earned him the role of freshman clerk of the Judiciary and Governmental Functions Committee, a critical member of the subcommittee. He was a critical member of the subcommittee which drafted the legislation establishing the present state circuit court system. That was really significant. For the next 3 years, he served as minority leader of the House of Representatives. But wait, there's more. In 1963, he was elected mayor of the city of Meriden, where he simultaneously served as mayor and as state representative. Then Secretary of the State, Elo Grasso, who is someone who my dad really admired, attended his inauguration as the official designee for Governor John Dempsey. I had a chance to read through a lot of articles and information, and there was one article that had just so many incredible quotes by Governor Dempsey. This is what he said: "Bill has been a tower of strength to me and to the people of the state since he was elected minority leader of the House. I came increasingly to rely on Bill as my good right arm." Don't you love that? My good right arm. "He made a deep and lasting impression on me and all legislative leaders of both political parties." I couldn't help but notice that he was actually balancing 3 roles, because at the time he had 4 children under the age of 6 at home. Mom remembers that time very well. Yes. I recently had the chance to sit down and talk with my father about this period in his career. He eagerly shared the excitement of acquiring the land owned by the state of Connecticut west of Lewis Avenue. It was transferred to G. Fox and Company for the development of the Westfield Mall, or as many of us know it, the Square, one of the Shea sisters' favorite destinations growing up. As part of the Urban Renewal and Redevelopment Plan, his administration also completed several highway programs, including the 6A connector and Route 691, making Meriden really a hub of the highway system in the state of Connecticut. He modernized City Hall, creating municipal offices without losing the historic place of government. He renovated the original Wilcox School, converting space into the Meriden Health Center, to the health department, a courtroom for the state judicial system, and a new location for the Meriden Police Department. Oftentimes, the list of accomplishments don't always capture a person's character and the essence of their leadership. My sister Margot Shea is a professional historian. She's a faculty member, and she conducted her own independent research. She gathered some detailed information that really does reflect his legacy. These include a passionate commitment to education, where he advocated for free tuition for Connecticut residents at UConn. He helped raise the minimum wage. As mayor, he was inspired and moved by the civil rights movement. In 1966, he created the first human rights director in his director position to ensure that African Americans and Hispanics had equal access to jobs, housing, and political representation. His term as mayor was marked by many firsts, including the first African American and Hispanic city employees in leadership positions in the establishment of the city's Puerto Rican festival. He ultimately made the decision to leave politics and serve the people of Meriden through his legal practice. He continued to fight for fair housing and served as legal counsel and president of the board of the St. Vincent de Paul Society. Throughout the 80s, and I remember this, them coming home exhausted, they would come home, they would work at the shelter, they would check people in, they would do laundry, they would organize meals. He even cooked his famous Bilger omelets for residents of the shelter. He also raised money in different ways, including an auction of original Meriden antiques, again showing his love of Meriden. Not too long ago, my son Avery, who's a senior in college, was spending the afternoon with my father. Of course, it had to include a visit to Kayla May's, right? So they stopped there for a steamed cheeseburger, and while they were finishing up their lunch, someone approached them and just walked up to my son, who, as we say, is a spitting image of his grandfather. My son Avery looks a lot like his grandfather. And the man just reached down and gave Avery just a squeeze on the shoulder and said, "Your grandfather is a great man." This brought back a flood of memories, because every time we were out, someone would stop him. Someone would thank him. And these were people from all different walks of life, that he had in some way touched their life, done them a favor, made a connection for them, and affected their path. So before I bring him up here, I would like to read an excerpt from a speech that my dad delivered in 1965. He said, I feel our challenge lies in our cities, to generate the jobs that give people meaning and self-confidence to their lives, to provide the education so that all children can have the opportunity of a good life, to provide a decent home where parents can teach children to know and love their nation and the God who created them. Thank you, Dad, for living this message and instilling in us these same values. It is with the deepest respect and gratitude that I present the Meriden Hall of Fame Award to William Thomas Shea. It's your turn, and I've got your award.
Thank you, Kathleen. Although it's kind of unusual for me to refer to her, to Dr. Smith, as Kathleen. In our family, she's KK. and a joy to all of us. I am grateful to the Commission and to all of you who have been involved in the selection of all of our people in this honorary position of the Hall of Fame. I made an opportunity with my grandson to walk through the sections of the City Hall where the pictures of the people in the Hall of Fame and their interests and accomplishments which were set forth were very interesting to my grandson, and he said that, Gramps, do you think that you did things like that? And I told him that maybe I had tried. And that's the important thing. It's wonderful to be here today, and particularly to be here in this room, because it takes me back to the 3rd grade when I walked from Roger Sherman down to the library and was over in that corner where we had an opportunity to look at the wonderful collection of, I forget the name of the pictures that we were able to look at that went back to the early days of Meriden and gave us an understanding of history. And it lasted for several years where we would walk down to the Curtis Library for the opportunity that it presented. In this area that where most of you folks are sitting were stacks of books that I learned to love to look at and to take out. I also want to say that it was a wonderful opportunity for me to come to Meriden. And it was my father, Charles Shea, who came to Meriden and brought his family with 4 young girls and 1 son. And he had traveled the world, or not the world, he had traveled the United States from Massachusetts, where he was raised, all the way to St. Louis as a shoe salesman, selling children's shoes. In 1935, he was offered a job in Lowell, Massachusetts, with a company that made children's shoes, and he gladly took it because he wanted to come back to New England. And he took his position and was told that he had to live in the territory that he had that went with the job. The territory consisted of western Massachusetts, all of Connecticut, and the section of New York state from above the city of New York up to the Canadian border. And he was told that he had probably just about a year to make the decision as to where he was going to live. He came down to the Boynton's store here in Meriden on Colony Street because he knew the manager of the shoe department and he wanted to ask him about Meriden. And he said, because Dad didn't really have that much familiarity with the city, just the fact that there were a couple of stores that he sold shoes to. The manager told him that Meriden was a really fine place to live and to raise a family. And so he got quite interested, but one thing that he was concerned about was whether or not there was good postal service from Meriden, because he had to get his orders into Lowell, Massachusetts as soon as possible. And so the manager said, well, you should walk down Colony Street here, and the next block you'll see the post office. And the man who was the assistant postmaster, Joseph Conklin, is a very nice guy, and he knows how everything is done in the Postal Service. And so Dad did that. He met Mr. Conklin, and Mr. Conklin assured him that if he got his mail into the post office in Meriden by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it would be delivered the next day in Lowell. And so Dad was quite impressed, and he said, well, do you know of whether or not there's many properties available in Meriden? And he said, well, he says, as a matter of fact, I noticed today that over on North Pearl Street, there's a family that just moved out. And he said, you know, I try to keep up with those changes in the streets and the residences in Meriden. And so Dad went out, took a look at a house, went back to Springfield, and said to my mother, you should come and look. And so the two of them drove to Meriden, and my mother said, this looks good to me, and I became a Meriden resident. And it has been a wonderful life. In Meriden, KK has told you about that I worked at the First National Supermarket, which is now the Bank of America, on East Main Street. And I looked forward to every part of the opportunity of working while I was in high school, and I enjoyed high school so much. Meriden High School was great. I had a wonderful experience of managing the junior prom, and then the Pennant, which was the newspaper of the weekly newspaper of Meriden High School, and then the Annual, which was the publication for all the graduates of the school at Meriden High School. I also just learned to love the teachers that I had, all the way from Miss Seitz in the third grade to the Flynn's, the Reardon sisters in Jefferson, and the Flynn sisters in Meriden High School, and all of the teachers, and I had a wonderful experience. I was able to go to Penn and enjoyed going back and forth, and then I learned to love the Wharton School of Finance and Commerce, which was a major part of the University of Pennsylvania, and then I continued on to the law school and thoroughly enjoyed it. As I was in my third year, the last year of the law school, I was offered a position with a Philadelphia law firm, and I was really pretty much interested because you heard about Philadelphia lawyers, and so I thought maybe that's what I should become. And at that point, the pull of Meriden and New England was too much. And an old family friend was the O'Brien family. Francis O'Brien was a lawyer in Meriden, and he got in touch with me and said, "Why don't you come back to Meriden and come to work with me?" And so I happily came back to Meriden, and the two of us worked together. It was O'Brien and Shea for a few years, and then Frank was appointed with some help from me and some other good people in Meriden to go from the local court in the city to the newly formed circuit court, and that was something that I enjoyed putting through and being a part of. I enjoyed immensely my work in the legislature. But,
tell us about the Multiple Sclerosis Society.
One of the things that was very important to me upon returning to Meriden was the Multiple Sclerosis Society. I had a sister, my oldest sister had MS, and she and I decided that there were too many patients in Meriden who didn't have the opportunity of getting around and meeting other people because of the illness. And so we put together an organization, and I went to the 1711 Inn and asked them if they could allow us to have meetings at the inn. Mr. O'Brien, who owned it, said, "Sure, come ahead." So we organized the monthly meetings, and I had an opportunity that I had not anticipated, and that was that at one of the first meetings, I was introduced to a delightful and beautiful young redhead, and who was bringing her friend who had MS to the meeting. Well, the time went by, but the interest only grew, and so it wasn't too long where that bright young redhead became my dearest wife, whom I still consider to be my closest and dearest person, and the most beautiful of them all. And with all the things that Kathleen did mention, that none was greater to me than that invitation to meet that beautiful young redhead, and also to marry her 58 years ago, and we're still, I think, enjoying the proposal and the change that resulted for both of us. And that includes the birth of 6 beautiful children who are now spread all across this world and do amazing things. And that it's important to both Janice and to me to learn every day of what they are doing for the benefit of their communities and the opportunities that life in Meriden presented to them as they have moved through their lives. So I want to thank the commission for this designation. I certainly thoroughly appreciate it, and I also want to congratulate Maureen, who is a really fine person. Charlie Flynn was a good one of my doctors whom I respected so immensely. I wasn't around when Governor Chamberlain, but certainly I'm a little familiar with that history, and I thank the commission for doing this wonderful job of giving us the opportunity of appreciating the life in Meriden. Thank you.
Congratulations, Attorney Shea. Last but certainly not least is Governor Abiram Chamberlain in the Historic Persons category. Introducing Governor Chamberlain and accepting the award on his behalf is Ruth Borsick, President of the Meriden Historical Society.
I would love to say that Abiram Chamberlain is related to me, but we don't share an accent, we don't share a heritage, and I don't have the whiskers that he did either. I am really thankful for giving me the honor to both introduce Abiram Chamberlain and accept his induction to the Meriden Hall of Fame in his behalf. Let it be known that though he was recommended to receive this honor by Jan Franco, who is also a member of the Meriden Historical Society. Jan could not be here today, so I humbly stand in her place. Governor Abiram Chamberlain was born in 1837 in Colebrook, Connecticut, and he died in Meriden in 1911. That's the year that my father was born. He attended public schools and pursued higher education at Williston Seminary in East Hampton, Massachusetts, where he became a civil engineer and later worked for his father's firm several years, just for several years. Because soon afterwards, he turned to banking and began his career as a teller working for the New Britain National Bank, where he would later on become a president. In 1867, Chamberlain moved to Meriden and became cashier for the Home National Bank. Being promoted to president by 1881, it is a position that he held until his death. And early on, he served for 5 years as a state militia person. Among his many businesses and interested, he was a promoter and director of the Meriden Waterbury Cromwell Railroad and vice president of the Meriden Savings Bank. He was also the director of the Winthrop Hotel Company, the Meriden Cutlery Company, the Edward Miller Company, the Meriden Hospital, and the Stanley Works of New Britain. At one time, he was the vice president of the American Bankers Association and president of the Meriden Fire Insurance Company. He belonged to the Home and the Colonial Clubs of Meriden, the Hartford Club, the Union League Club of New Haven, and the Metabetuan Fishing and Game Club of Canada. He was a prominent member of Meriden's First Congregational Church for many, many years. Chamberlain entered into politics in the 1870s when he was serving as the Meriden City Auditor from 1871 to 1874, as a member of the City Council, and as a member of the Connecticut House of Representatives that was in 1877. He served as Connecticut State Controller from 1901 to 1902 and was elected Connecticut's 43rd governor. He was a Republican from 1903 to 1905. He is the only Meriden resident ever elected to this office. During his term as governor, Chamberlain was known for his kindness, integrity, and good humor. He was decisive, and when action was required, he called out the National Guard to quell a rioting that accompanied a trolley strike in Waterbury. He also signed legislation that established the state police. He received an honorary law degree from Wesleyan University in 1903. When he died, the Meriden Morning Record called Chamberlain one of Meriden's most influential and beloved citizens, and the Meriden Daily Journal remembered him as the state's friendliest governor. He was always interested in the welfare of Meriden and played a prominent role in the city's 1906 centennial celebration. Chamberlain Highway is named in his honor. He and his wife Charlotte Roberts Chamberlain are buried in Walnut Lake Cemetery.
I would now like to ask all of today's inductees or their designees to please return to the podium for some special proclamations. First, I would like to call back to the podium U.S. Senator Richard Blumenthal.
Well, if I weren't inspired before I heard about all these spectacular individuals, I certainly am now. And there's not much that I can add except a great thank you to each of them. Truly, you are models for all of us in your own ways. And I'm sure glad Bill Shea decided not to become a Philadelphia lawyer. Nothing against lawyers, of course, but glad you became a Meriden lawyer. And thank you to each of you. As I mentioned earlier, I have a certificate of special recognition from the Senate of the United States for each of the honorees, and I'm very proud to present them now. Thank you.
Next, I would like to introduce Congresswoman Elizabeth Estes' aide for the area, Matthew Dominello.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm here on behalf of Congresswoman Estes. Unfortunately, she's unable to be here today, so I'm here to present certificates to each and every one of you. And this time, I'd like to present this to Maureen, front and center. Won't say a word.
He's afraid I'm going to, every time I see Maddie, I say to him, let's get married and run away, but he never. You're blushing.
She's lying, I can't catch her.
You don't have to read that.
Yeah, I'm going to. I have a certificate of special congressional recognition for you, Maureen. Oh, God, I need my glasses.
No, you don't, because you don't have to read them all.
I'm not going to read it all, but
Oh.
I'm going to read yours.
Oh, okay.
Presented to Maureen and Bilger, in recognition of her positive impact on the Meriden community. Maureen's service to the community extended far beyond her assigned roles and duties, as she has been an integral part in the personal development of generations of Meriden families. Her involvement in the community for overseeing the Girl Scout troops of Meriden, Junior Intermediate Women's Club, to the Kiwanis Club of Meriden, and her work with the Babes program.
Come on, Maddie. You can do it.
We've heard her values as a kind-hearted mother, educator, and a role model. On behalf of the United States House of Representatives, thank you for your service. October 16, 2016, dated Elizabeth H. Esley, Member of Congress. Maureen, really, honestly.
Maddie, you're a doll. Thank you.
Really, it's my honor and pleasure. Really.
Thank you, man.
Don't run so fast next time, okay?
Okay, now slow down.
Thank you. Oh, this, I have one for each one of you. Bill, I have one for you. I should be saying former mayor, I should be saying. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Oh, you're right. Okay.
Just trying to help.
You're always
This one for covering.
Thank you very much.
Last but not least, I have Dr. Flynn, who was my doctor. Didn't break too many bones. This is for in honor of Charles Flynn. Thank you. Congratulations. Here you go, young man. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to call on Mayor Kevin Scarpati.
I feel bad we don't want to block the inductees today. You know, without adding too much more, I just want to again thank everyone for coming to such an important ceremony, and to the 4 inductees here. What you have added to make Meriden all that it is today is something that my colleagues on the City Council and I aspire to do each and every day, and we're inspired by the stories we heard today. I certainly learned a tremendous amount, and I am gratefully appreciative of all you've done for our community. I thank you very, very much. It's an honor and a pleasure to present you with the official proclamation from the Mayor's office and the City Council. We thank you all very, very much for all you've done. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And last but not least, I'd like to introduce State Representative Hilda Santiago and Representative Buddy Altabello.
I'm going to present the ones from Senator Chris Murphy's office. We are very grateful for all that you have done for the city of Meriden, and especially Maureen. She's like the energizer lady. She never stops ticking. You are one of my role models.
Oh, we'll get together.
Thank you for your service and all you have done for the city of Meriden. When I'm up at the state capitol, I always introduce Meriden as the center of the universe. So we are a great city, and we need to be very proud of the people that have stayed and worked in our city and the people that are still here making this a great city. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Hilda. I too would like to offer my congratulations and extend my appreciation to the Hall of Fame, of which I think I've been a member since, I think, 1987, and to President Sweedock and the board for keeping this wonderful tradition going. It's been terrific. To the Flynn family, I'd just like to thank my lucky stars that we were able to move into the neighborhood right next door. And having two young boys, my wife Joanne and I had, with 9 kids in the family, we had a lot of babysitters built in and worked out perfectly. The mother, which was a nurse, and the father, which was a doctor. So it worked out very well. Thank you very much to the Flynn family and the Murphys and all of you, and the grandkids too. It's wonderful to see you. To Maureen, who's the price of admission to the Kiwanis Capers was always, I mean, was it worth it to see Maureen come out during the set changes, and she'd have to come out and shoot the bull for a while. Kind of.
No.
And you know what? You're really good at it. The hit of the show, really. I'll pay $20 for you. Maureen, congratulations. Well deserved. Your career has been amazing. And to you and Governor Chamberlain, the only governor from Meriden. We're really, really proud. I'm surprised it took this long for him to be recognized. Congratulations. Yeah, long time. And to mayor, councilor, state representative, and many other hats, Mr. Shea.
Thanks, bud.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I've been fortunate enough to be an elected official for a long while now. I think since the late 80s. And in that time, many people have made a pitch to whatever committee I was on. And the best one still is one that you gave on behalf of a client in the late 80s. It was a zone change. You said you'd take 45 minutes. I looked at my watch, it was 7:03. You said it was be in 5 parts. You named all 5. Said you'd come back to them as if they came up. You did all 5 parts in the exact same order. 45 minutes later on the dot, you were done. No notes, and a very complicated zone change of a large piece of property. No notes whatsoever. No repeats and no ums or ahs or ums. And as you may well recall, I think you could have stopped halfway through because it passed unanimously. You were a great advocate for our city and your clients and a special talent. Congratulations.
Okay, you may be seated, yes. Congratulations once again to all of today's inductees. They have all made an impact on our city, and their stories will be forever memorialized in the Meriden Hall of Fame. We encourage you to stop by City Hall in the coming weeks to see their plaques on permanent display. Each year, the Meriden Hall of Fame solicits nominees of current and past Meriden citizens who have distinguished themselves in their professional and private lives and have brought honor to our city. Anyone may nominate a person in the categories of art, business and commerce, community service, education, law, government and military, literature, media, performing arts, philanthropy, science and medicine, and sports by January 31st. Voting occurs by mailed ballot in April and May by members of the Meriden Hall of Fame, those who pay an annual or lifetime fee to support the work of the association and the induction of new honorees. Our brochure and membership form can be found on each of your chairs, and I encourage you to consider joining and nominating someone deserving of inclusion in the Hall of Fame. It is the generous support of our members that allows the association to continue this annual recognition. For more information, I invite you to please visit meridenhalloffame.org or find us on Facebook. In closing, I would like to acknowledge the Cuno Foundation for its generous support of our website and this induction ceremony, and Prentice Printing Solutions for its donation of our printing needs. Special thanks again to Denise Jones and Inner Groove for providing today's musical entertainment, and to the Augusta Curtis Cultural Center for hosting today's ceremony. I would now like to call on Sister Georgianne for the benediction.
I just would like to thank Brian. I think Brian did a phenomenal job. Now, when John asked me to do this, he said a benediction for about an hour, so I said, okay. Let us pray. Lord God, we rejoice in your greatness and power, your gentleness and love, your mercy and justice. We thank you for this time together to honor Mrs. Maureen Bilger, Dr. Charles Flynn, Attorney Bill Shea, and Governor Chamberlain. Enable us by your Spirit to honor you in our thoughts, words, and actions, and to serve you in every aspect of our lives. Through our loving God, amen.
Amen.
That concludes our ceremony. Thank you everyone for joining us, and congratulations to Maureen Bilger, Dr. Charles T. Flynn Jr., Attorney William Shea, and Governor Abiram Chamberlain. We now invite you to join us for a reception honoring today's inductees.